there's so many opportunities with real connection that I feel now, I think social just becomes a way to hide behind your screen, and you don't actually have to put yourself out there in the same way that you would if you're building relationships.
If you're someone who has always wanted to get consistent clients in their online service-based business without the pressure to post on social media, I made this podcast specifically for you. I'm Leslie Stevens, and I am so excited to welcome you to the Not an Influencer Show, where we chat about other organic marketing strategies that you can use to bring clients into your business quickly and easily, and the tangible tips for you to move forward faster in your business, and the stories of the entrepreneurs who are doing the same every single day. You do not have to be an influencer to be an impact maker and a successful. We get to chat with Melissa today. So Melissa, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me. So I am a life and business coach for women. I started this business myself in 2020, and it's really evolved ever since for me. So it's been, at first it was like, it's funny, it was actually like thinking about content today and how I wanted to write a story about like, oh, I was having a lot of anxiety, so I decided to start a business. Right? But that's really... I started this healing journey for myself, and out of it came the most beautiful journey of business and real self-connection that I never anticipated. So to back up, I was in the corporate world for 10 plus years. I was in management consulting. I have an MBA. And then when I got pregnant with my first child, I quit that job and went totally all or nothing into stay-at-home motherhood. And for someone who had like been this goal getter, high achiever, that was quite a like identity crisis for me. And not only was it like the loss of kind of self, but then just the physical changes that my body went through having two kids back to back. I broke my foot when I was 5 months postpartum, and that was not a good time. And I just really felt stuck in my life. And so what, as I said, initially started as my own kind of personal healing journey that I went on, shone the light on the fact that I always dreamt of being a coach when I was like 20 years old. And I was the friend at the party that you'd come and sit down and like tell your whole life story to. And I'd be like, oh, you should do this. And I'm a projector, by the way. So I've also learned when like unsolicited advice is not a thing. I basically was this journey of really finding myself again and going back to the things that really lit me up when I was younger, and pairing that with my newly acquired skills and education, and deciding to begin a business for mothers at the time to really help them regain that sense of self and find themselves again after, huge transition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I'm going through right now. I have a 6-month-old. So it's getting back into like figuring out, okay, it's a new life. You're essentially a new person. You're creating a new life with additional people you have to take care of, but you also want that element of fulfillment. I was telling my husband, I was like, it's not that being a mother isn't fulfilling. It's the fact that you can have different types, I called it different flavors of fulfillment, yes, to really create this well-balanced and rounded life. And it makes you a better parent, I believe. And there are people who are stay-at-home moms, and they're fantastic at that. And that is that's their sense of fulfillment. And I think that's fantastic for them. But like you, I'm also one of those, I want to achieve my goals. I love to get after it and help people, support people. I was the same type of person, like at parties. Oh yeah, we could do this to help you get through that, and blah, blah, blah. So it's allowing yourself to have those strengths in different areas of your life and bring them out and work cohesively with all of it. So what you're doing is so important. And when you go through that journey for yourself, it's like a huge realization that a lot of people might feel stuck there.
Hmm.
And they might not have the tools to get themselves out, and being able to show them through example of what you're doing is fantastic. So how did you get your first clients when you started this business?
Yeah. So, thank you so much for saying that, first of all, because I just wanted to add that I think that too, what happens for these goal getter women like you and I is we have to also kind of reevaluate what that goal getting looks like now that there are people relying on us, and we can't do things the same way as we did in our 20s, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um, just knowing that we have these dependents and that your energy really is like important to manage, because you can't be burnt out at the end of the day anymore when you have to start that second shift, right? So
Yes.
I just wanted to add that. But in terms of clients, so for me, when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start coaching. I want to work with moms. I two things happened, which is why I love the universe, because just you say something out loud and it falls into your lap. So I made that kind of decision and commitment out loud. I signed up, I did my research and signed up for a coaching certification. And at the same time, an old acquaintance of mine invited me to start a mom based self care events business with her, pre-pandemic. So
Timing.
timing. In the grand scheme, it took off brilliantly. We had a great, kickoff and first event and gained a lot of traction. But then, of course, events stopped. We had, I think, one huge event, and then in January and then March is when lockdown happened. So we flipped to virtual at that time. And I was then again, like progressing through my certifications. So I had to, I think it was I had to have 3 practice clients in my certification. And so I'll admit I was using social media for this to start. But I just kind of put out a call through that mom's business that I was running with my friend, if there was anyone looking for a life coach. And I ended up getting practice clients that way. And that's what sort of started to build a bit of that client base then, that I took with me. And as I said, I did use social for a bit. And I mean, I'm still on it. I find it's a landing page for people, but I don't really incorporate that into my strategy, which we can get into later. But
Yeah, absolutely. It's so smart to use your current network. And you had this network built up of perfect people. And we don't look at our current network sometimes when we start a new business. And we're like, okay, we have to go find new people I've never met before that have never been exposed to me. And that's kind of the social media way. It's like, okay, these new people have to come find me. But you were really smart and you tapped into your current network, and then you use social media as this bonus kind of thing. And like you said, I love that you said that I was like a landing page for people, because people do want to be able to like look you up and see what you're all about. It's like another place to have a website.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And something that I work now with clients. So I didn't really add this, but now in terms of my coaching, I'm working with a lot of women who are wanting to start their own business, basically. So they're kind of in that same place where it's like, oh, maybe I've been a stay-at-home mom, or I just want to leave my corporate job and build, a business around my life now, something like that. And something I have them do is actually like write out 50 names of someone of people and reach out to those people individually. And they might not be your target client, but they might know somebody, right? And it's just to say like, hey, haven't connected with you in a while, but, saw you went to Hawaii. How was it? Like something personal. And then just let you know, I'm putting together a new business concept, and I'm, putting the word out there. If you know of anyone, I'd love for you to pass them on to me. Something's just super simple. That really does leverage the connections that you already have. Right. And it doesn't need to be that they are the client, but they might know somebody who's the client. It just builds that word of mouth.
It's getting the message out there, and then it's also helping you practice what your message is and refine, like, oh, this is what I do. This is the simple way for me to communicate it with people. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the easier it is then down the line for you to put yourself out there in front of people you don't know.
Totally.
So it's building that confidence. So especially for people who haven't had a business before, or they're moms, they've been stay-at-home moms, they kind of have been in this bubble, how do you help them really break out and get that confidence to even put themselves out there to the people that they know?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely tough. But as you said, it's practice, right? And it might be piecing out your list into people who feel safer, and then a little bit like medium level, and then scary, right? And just like send 5 emails one day. Like, you don't need to send 50. It's just baby stepping your way. And I feel that when we take baby steps, that's really what builds our confidence, because we have to practice literally everything. Like, we have to practice even who we want to become. We don't just decide, like, for instance, okay, so my kids are 6 and 4. So I can find myself raising my voice at times. And so I don't, for me to say, like, I'm not yelling anymore, that's really hard. Like, it's really hard to go from A to Z.
Yeah.
But if I just say, like, I'm going to try to not yell for the morning, and then I don't. And I remember, like, it's like a kind of a morning is something that will stay top of mind. It's like, this morning I'm not yelling, right? And then I get to noon and I'm like, hey, I didn't yell. Okay, cool. So this afternoon, I'm not yelling. If I make it through a whole day, I'm like, I just made it through a whole day. It is possible. So like, you just keep practicing those things.
Yeah. When I have a new thing that I'm doing, a new marketing anything, or talking to new people, I always try and get it done first thing in the morning.
Yes.
Because then I don't think about it too much. I'm like, okay, this is the first thing on my list. I have to complete this before I move on to the next thing. Yeah. I just go in, I get it done. And then it gets easier, and I don't think about it as much. I don't give myself tons of time to talk myself out of it either.
Right. Because pile on your plate, because you'll always find something else to do that's more important or pressing, right? And
oh, yeah.
This is, I think, the eat the frog concept, right? Like, you do the hardest, grossest thing first, and then the rest of the day is easy.
Absolutely. So how do you get clients now? What is like your main method of bringing in new clients to your business?
I'm so glad you asked, because I'm actually really excited about this. And it's happened mostly because of restrictions and everything kind of going away. So now that we're able to move back into in-person style events more easily, people are just more comfortable with that. I'm saying this with this cold that I'm getting over. It's like cold and flu season. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But my new method right now is actually, I'm hosting small group retreats out of my home, and they're for like 15 people maximum. And it's it's an opportunity for me to blend things I love. Like, I love hosting. I love the feeling of like a women's circle or something small like that. And from there, if someone enjoys the tidbit they got, the workshop, the evening, they can book into a higher ticket program out of that. So I'm trying to use more of, again, the things that just feel naturally where my strengths are. And again, leveraging that network to build more in-depth, kind of deeper relationships, because I really feel that the most successful coaching clients I've had, we've had some sort of relationship prior to the engagement of some sort. And it's interesting because I've had people like I used to go to high school with reach out to me for coaching, right? Or we've just known, like, maybe they've been in my network for a while, and then they become a client, or they've been, a follower, an email subscriber for like a year or something, and we've built up some sort of relationship. I just find that those coaching engagements everybody benefits more. So I find for me, what I'm really trying to work on is building that up front before I place the expectation on it in a coaching engagement kind of thing.
And being in person allows you to build that trust
Yes.
so much faster, because building relationships, building trust to the point where people are ready to buy from you, like you have so many different elements that you can present with when you're in person that are harder to get across in the virtual world. Like, yes, you can have conversations with people and you can feel their energy and you can read their body language if you're on video chat, all of those things, but it's different when you're in person. And you can think about that the same way you think about any relationship in your life, whether it's friends, family members, significant others, all of those things. You know that it's different when you talk to them in person than when you do over the phone or texting or any of those things. So you're shortening that time it takes to build that trust with them, where I always see social media as the slowest way to do that, because you only get like 0.5 seconds of their time or less when they're scrolling past something. So that's all they're getting from you. But when they're in there in person, you get an hour, maybe 2 hours to deepen that relationship through a workshop or a group. And you've got that small community that they can feel and be a part of. And then that ties in their emotion. Was there ever a point in your business where you kind of depended a little bit more on social media, or felt the pressure to use social media more than these things that you know that work for you now?
For sure. I mean, especially in the pandemic, like everybody had a virtual business, it seemed, right? And so it was like, if you're not showing up 8 times a day on your stories, do you even have a business? Right?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, because actually a whole reason why I stopped the mom event company with my friend was because I didn't want to be on social media. I was trying to really grow my own coaching business, which obviously means like social media is a part of that, but like there's so much development and, content creation outside of that, and sales and marketing. Like, it's to grow a business is not being on social media. And so I was finding that I was spending a lot of the time storying. And I was like, for what? Like, we're not offering even anything. We're just like an entertainment service, basically. So it was a kind of a difficult choice, because I valued the audience component, but also I just felt like it wasn't aligned with where I was going, because I was really trying to focus more on growing that business and just wasn't getting the return on my time and energy. So that was something. And then I find, for me, I've been on social since like 2007, I think, right? So it's really ingrained in me. And I often actually have to kind of pull myself back from thinking like, oh, what are going to be all my social posts for this campaign or launch? And it's like, don't that's not the main focus. If you want to create something, great. Like, if I just have the free time and some white space one day and I'm like, oh, I'll make a post or a story, awesome. But I have to kind of intentionally stop myself from trying to bring that in as a part of building out a marketing campaign.
Absolutely. I think we do it backwards, because it's been so ingrained in us to, like, the first thing we think of is, oh, what do I put on social media? And I know, going back to my first business, I had realized that I was spending more time trying to come up with content and creating content than anything else in my business. That's working with clients, that's working on the business itself or my programs. And I was like, this is the wrong way to do it. I was like, I started my business to work with clients, and that's what I love to do. And I did not like creating content whatsoever. But it's like you said, that if you have that white space at the end to create it, yes, it's fantastic method of marketing and it's free. It should be supporting everything else. And if you create the foundation of what your offer is, you have an amazing offer, you lay out all of the foundational marketing materials, that then should make your socials really easy. So it's doing it the complete opposite way than we instinctively want to do it, because we're exposed to social media so much.
Right.
But
Yeah. I
It's
think
trust.
something, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's perfect.
I think something that's helpful for me too is like noticing my own behavior on social media and saying like, if this is what you do, why would you think someone would take more time than you take on people's pages to look at your stuff, right? And like I just know when I go through people's stories, and first I barely scroll the feed anymore. Like I feel like see people's feeds because I'm seeking them out a lot of times. Or like their story points me there maybe, but like I mostly just go through stories these days myself, and it's kind of like a tap, 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 right? Like I'm not engaging, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
I just have to remind myself that it's like, why do you think that you're different, right? Or that someone would be stopping their scroll to like, and it's, if you have amazing marketing content, then fantastic. But for me, I was like not seeing the effort turned into clients too. So it wasn't a fruitful use of my time.
Yeah. And it could even work, but if the energy you're investing in it isn't creating the outcome that you really want, it's a great place to stand back and reflect like, okay, there are so many other methods of marketing that are actually really effective. If this one way is you're spending so much time doing it, but you're not getting an outcome you want. Okay, what other things can we look at? How can we be creative with our approach? How can we go into other people's communities? How can we get exposure in a different way? Maybe write a guest article. How can I get on somebody's podcast? Like all of these different things are available to us. It's really about trusting ourselves to, okay, step back from social media and look at the big picture.
Right. Yeah. And like, who can you collaborate with? Like, you don't have to do this alone, right? Like, I've partnered with so many people over the years for things. And whether it's even just like people who will share your information with others, like, it doesn't need to be like we're running a program together, but it's just having people to rely on that spread the word or, you do leverage their audience because they have a community that you could give value to. And in turn, they can come into yours or you swap podcast, whatever it is. Like there's so many opportunities with real connection that I feel now, I think social just becomes a way to hide behind your screen and you don't actually have to put yourself out there in the same way that you would if you're building relationships. And I get it, like that can feel awkward and uncomfortable for sure, but business grows at the speed of relationships, right? And so if you're in business, there's no way around it in my mind. Like you have to build relationships. It's not a vacuum.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you said that because it is kind of like an element of hiding when we're kind of just talking to the camera or creating this piece of content, like we're like, oh, I'm putting myself out there all the time. But are you doing it in the right places with the right intention to get the result? Because I know when I started putting myself out there in terms of like actually starting conversations with people who could be potential clients, that return on my investment of time was so much better. And I will say I was afraid to put myself out there in the beginning. Sure. I was terrified. It's scary.
Of course. Yeah.
And then social media actually allowed me to grow that confidence in that. So I never think social media is a bad thing. And I think it can be a great tool to grow and learn. But I am all about saving people time and frustration. So if you can grow your confidence in the way that you're talking to people directly and communicating with them and building relationships, whether it's with people who could be clients directly or with those people who you could like work with in collaborations, like you said, it's all about those relationships.
Yeah, totally. And it's also like, providing the value to your clients so that they'll post about you, right? That you don't have to do anything. Like make your services and the value and transformation you deliver so powerful that people can't help but share, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's like, I don't personally, if anyone has ever tagged me in a story being like, oh, just finished my coaching call or got this advice. Like that is everything to me to see that versus like, oh, someone shared your post. Like, who cares? Right. So yeah, it's like providing the experience that someone wants to talk about. If you could put your energy into that, right? Yeah. Then give them something to share for you so that you don't have to do it.
That's ultimately the most important thing, because then everything starts working for itself. When you provide a fantastic experience and service and result, everything else will build on that. And that creates the best business that you could have. And it makes it easier on you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So totally. If you had 3 actions somebody could take today to move forward faster in their business, what would they be?
That's a good one. One thing I would say is a weekly date with yourself to strategically plan your week. So whether that's like at the start of the week, probably, or you could do it on Friday, I guess, for the week ahead. But I really think it's important if you're running a business to put yourself in that leadership role, truly CEO position, and strategically plan where you're spending your time and energy for the week ahead. Because as we know, it can get so busy, or you just push things off. If you have a mile-long to-do list, that's not really organized. That's just a brain dump of things, and you'll put that in wherever you can. So I think having an hour to 2, honestly, to really sit down, go through your metrics, know where you're lagging potentially, like, is it in revenue or an audience issue? And then you know where to focus your energy and attention for that week ahead, would be my first tip. My second tip would be kind of what we already talked about, like make a list of people you could reach out to and just send 5 emails a day for the next 10 days, something like that. Just a connection point, something personalized, so it's not just a blanket statement, and an ask of whether, they could forward your info or just keep you in mind, something of that nature. And third would be to keep it fun. When you're in joy, everything feels easier and flows easier. And it's like knowing, and this can be even part of that strategic planning session at the start of the week, like, what do I need for myself this week? I have this concept I teach called pay yourself first. And I don't just mean it in accounting. I mean it in your time and your energy and your schedule for the week. How can you pay yourself first? Do you need a girls' night, a warm bath, just time to work out every day? What is it you need to feel your best? And then you're going to feel more confident to take the action in your business.
Yeah, that's so important. One of the things that I do is after I go through my list, when I have my CEO day, that's what I call it, I always write down, how can I make this fun? Especially those tasks that are those early morning tasks that I'm just like, okay, get through it. I'm always like, okay, how can I make this fun? How could I enjoy this? How, can I turn on music while I'm writing this email? Can I do a little something before? Can I go get myself a coffee? Something like that, about how I can make it more enjoyable for myself, because it really comes through in everything that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. If you're dragged out, and it's kind of like going back to what we said at the start of our conversation about motherhood and business. And it's like, if you're burnt out in any aspect of your life, you're not going to show up in the way that you want. And so I really do feel that business and life, they're so intertwined, and managing your energy on both fronts will allow you to progress on both fronts, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So where can people find you to connect with you and potentially work with you?
Sure. So I will point you towards my website, melissagiller.com. That's kind of the hub for everything to find me. I have my own podcast, which I air weekly, and we discuss all things motherhood, as well as all things. And then I do use Instagram as a platform of writing, but yeah, I just so find me online for sure.
We will leave all those links so that I can click them in the podcast description and the YouTube video. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you want to learn more about different marketing strategies to bring consistent clients into your business without feeling the pressure to post on social media, make sure you watch the free training on the client connection method, which is in the description below. Thanks for hanging out with us today.